Good morning. Good morning, Matt. How are you? How's everyone else? How's everyone else? I feel like a camp counselor now. Come on, this side versus this side. Woo! Man, it's a good thing I'm not a camp counselor. I guess I do a bad job. My name's Aaron. I'm obviously not Tony. Although, I think the only thing that's wait, hang on. There we go. Now I'm kind of like Tony, right? Toes out. If you can't see, I got my feet up. I will be with you today. Actually, I'm with you specifically this service every Sunday, but I will be leading us in stuffs. So, hi. Man, he's so right. Like, whenever I'm sitting here at like the 10:50 and I'm like, man, he is wound up and he's whatever. I'm an introvert and I'm like, woo! All right, let's do this. Sorry, guys. I'm going to pray and then we can stand for worship. Father God, I thank you so much for just everything that you are. I thank you for your grace. I thank you for your love. I thank you that you've brought us here. I pray that we would have eyes to see you and hearts that beat with you and ears to just hear what you would have to say about us and to us. Thank you that you never call us to do anything you haven't already done yourself. And I thank you for giving everything away for our sake. Amen. Go ahead and stand, guys.
He has worship the Lord and sing. Oh, my soul, rejoice. I lift my voice with everything I have. Come, worship the Lord and sing. Oh, my soul, rejoice. I lift my voice with everything I have. When everything falls, He has made me glad. Made me glad. At your name, the mountains shake and crumble. At your name, the oceans roar and tumble. At your name, and at your name, angels will bow. The earth will rejoice. Your people cry out. Let's set our hearts on Him. Lord of all the earth, shout your name, filling up the skies. Endless praise, Yahweh, Yahweh. We love promised us. Higher than the mountains that I face, stronger than the power of the grave, constant in the trial and the change. This one thing remains. We believe this is true. Higher than the mountains that I face, stronger than the power of the grave, constant in the trial and the change. This one thing remains. This one thing remains. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love. And on and on and on and on it goes. It overwhelms and satisfies my soul. Yeah, I'll never ever have to be afraid. This one thing remains. Come on, church. This one thing remains. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Declare your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. We believe your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love, in death and in life, in death, in life, I'm confident and covered by the power of your great love. My debt is paid. There's nothing that can separate my heart from your great love. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love is great, strong. 'Cause in death, in life, I'm confident and covered by the power of your great love. My debt is paid. There's nothing that can separate my heart from your great love. And your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails, never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love. 'Cause in death and in life, I'm confident and covered by the power of your great love. Think about these words. My debt is paid. There's nothing that can separate my heart from your great love. Lord, we thank you for truth. Invade our hearts with your truth, Lord. Oh, Spirit. Oh, I've heard good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. I've seen, oh, I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers. Only you provide, 'cause you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're sovereign. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. To us, you're perfect, Lord. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. To us, oh, this love so undeniable, I can hardly speak. Peace so unexplainable, I can hardly think as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love. Love, you're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're perfect. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. To us, sing that out. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. You are perfect in all of your ways. To us, Spirit, help us sing. You're a good, good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are, and Lord, soften our hearts. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. I'm just going to say amen, right? Amen.
All right. If you are a child, not look like a child, if you are actually a child, 6th grade and under, there are places for you to go. Whoa, that's like magic. There are people with signs. If you don't know where to go, find somebody who looks about your size and follow them. The rest of us, go ahead and greet one another. How are you? You're a good man. Good. I'm glad. Thanks for the hug.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Mosaic. That is so nice. All right. Good morning. Welcome to Mosaic. My name is Heather, and it is such a beautiful day. So great that we could all be together. All right. If you are a guest with us, there is a pamphlet in the back of the pew titled Things You Might Want to Know. Go ahead and take a look at that. There is also a Welcome Center downstairs, so we really want to encourage you to go down there if you are a first-time visitor especially. There is a gray connection card in the back of your pew, and this is your tool to communicate with us. So if you have any questions or information on serving, go ahead and fill it out on the connection card. And once you do that, you can drop it into one of our giving boxes. Where are our giving boxes located, Tony? Yes, out in the narthex and out into the main hallway behind us. So you can find it there and drop it in, and we will follow up accordingly. Did you just wake up? Did you?
I feel so much better now.
Yeah. There we go.
I was doing my Jack Nicholson tonight.
Oh, well, I am so glad you could be here as well. This week we have coming up our third Wednesday breakfast and food pantry. That's going to be on Wednesday, July 19th. There will be serving opportunities from 8 to 11 a.m. And once again, if you have any items for the food pantry, you can still drop it off this week during office hours, or downstairs, just through the door to the Welcome Center, there is a grocery cart, and you can drop it into the grocery cart, and so we'll have it there to put in the food pantry. Or you can bring it later. We'll need to restock after this Wednesday as well, so it's welcomed at any time. Next, we have our MOPS, Mother of Preschoolers, play date. It's on July 18th from 10 a.m. to noon, and it is at South Park. Where is South Park, Tony? Yes, so take a right down, go left, right, left, and there it is. All right. And snacks and drinks will be provided. And so if you have a child from baby to, I believe, 5th grade, is considered mothers of preschoolers. Our local missions fair is on July 29th through the 30th, and that is the last weekend in July. So you go downstairs in the hub. We'll have all sorts of people from the community that have, what am I trying to think of?
The giant Ferris wheel.
Tony says there's going to be a giant Ferris wheel. So be sure to come and check that out. And there will be other organizations from the community. I am struggling.
You are. It's beautiful.
There will be other organizations from the community at the local missions fair. They will have representatives that you can talk with firsthand, and they'll have some materials for you if you are interested in learning more and how to get involved in our area. There is a prayer night. It's the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m.
I can't do anything funny for that.
No, but I really don't know much about this, so maybe you could talk about it.
We'll be spending time in prayer together for the ministry, for the church, for the neighborhood, for other churches in the area, ministries in the area, and missions in the area. This will be once a month. We'll be getting together on Wednesday evenings and spending time in prayer and worship.
All right, and there you have it from the mouth of babes. All right. This is such a great day. All right, well, that's all that we have for you, so thank you so much for joining us.
All right. That was fun. So does that mean you're like a babe or like, so immature that you're not, spanking age yet? You're still, okay. So I think I introduced myself. I didn't. See, I'm never going to judge that guy again. Like, hey, he forgot to introduce himself. Yeah, you do it a couple times. So I'm Aaron. I've been coming to Mosaic for like 3 or 4 years. I forget. Matt showed me numbers last time, and it was like 6,005. I don't think that's true. Is that true? Man, I'm getting old. It doesn't look like it. All right. She says 4. Okay, so we got 5 and 4. All right. Some of my friends are now debating how long I've been coming here. So somewhere between 5 and 4 years, which is about how old I look, so that's appropriate. Basically Tony had to do a wedding on Saturday, and in typical Tony fashion was like, maybe, he's an ID guy, so he's like, maybe you could just do the whole weekend. And then he's like, but maybe not. And, that's the nice way of saying if this is a disaster or a dumpster fire or an emergency waiting to happen, he'll gently swoop in and save us. But I'm still here, which means if this plane goes down in flames, it's his fault. So, taking no responsibility. How are we doing? Good. What have we been talking about? Let's see. So far, every service has failed at this, so let's see if you're a little bit better, all right? You want to be the best children, right? We don't want to be like those other children that get talked about when the parents close the door. You want to be the good child. Okay, so we have been talking about starts with a P. Prudence. Yes, that's also true. There's another P word. Oh, you guys are like the super smart child that's like, no, you weren't supposed to. No. Yes. This is bad. We're talking about our poverty. Things doesn't start with a P. Peace. Yeah. No, we've been talking about poverty and peace and prayer and prudence. Yeah. But specifically, we're looking at last week. And if you have notes, do you all have notes? If you have notes, wave them in the air. If I do not see your hand waving in the air, point to the person who has your notes. And then if you don't have notes, just raise your hand. Does anybody not have notes? I am a notes guy. Somebody is raising a hand for someone. That's like bonus points and also kind of embarrassing, so sorry. Now I don't have notes. Does anyone have double notes? Does a husband and wife have 2 pairs of... Okay, Christy's going to give me some notes. Great. All right. Wow, that's such a good image for what we're going to be talking about. Man, I should have done that every other time. Well, we always pray that it's different. All right, so looking at our notes, one of the key things that we were talking about last week was that we would pray that we'd slow down, first of all. So I'm going to slow down. Awkward silence. Okay. That we would slow down, that we would pray for eyes to see, ears to hear, a heart to empathize. Later it's going to say emphasize. You can emphasize. A wisdom to discern, eyes to invite, hands to extend. It says feet go. That sounds like a new shoe. Feet go, the new shoe. It's supposed to say feet to go, but, editors and stuff. Stuff to give. Perfect. So we're talking about this idea of recognizing our poverty. And why do we need to recognize our poverty? What is Tony going after when he's telling us that we need to recognize our poverty? What does that enable us to do? It's a K word. Yes. There's only one K word that fit there, or at least that we thought of, so that saved me. Yeah, to be kind. And the idea is that if we recognize our own poverty, that is, if we recognize that we are dependent on God for each and every moment, for everything that we have, how can we be anything but one person? Kind. Man, you guys are supposed to be awake. Like, you probably had 3 cups of coffee. Your kids have already driven you insane. Like, you should be almost ready for bed at this point. Yeah. No, to be kind. So I'm going to read just from the notes here. So it says, as we seek to remember our frailty, our poverty, and the gentle kindness of our God who cares for us indiscriminately, that is, without being partial, we begin to understand how we ought to love those around us, to honor them and love them as we love ourselves. And as we begin to pray for eyes to see, ears to hear, hearts to empathize, wisdom to discern, eyes to invite, hands to extend, and stuff to give, our hearts begin to beat in sync with the heart of our Father. And it is the desire of the heart of our Father to give in such a way as to draw us first in all our poverty and frailty and neediness into deeper relationship with Him. And then, as our hearts, being drawn into Him, begin to beat in rhythm with His, it is only natural that we begin to give of ourselves for the same reason. What reason? To draw those we encounter nearer to the heart of our gracious and kind Father. So, to give some context to what this looks like, because we've been praying, right, for eyes to see, for ears to hear, for a heart to empathize or emphasize. Ooh. Now you see how the typo got in there, right? Like, I can't even get through it. While we've been praying for all these things, we're going to zoom down in on this concept of gleaning. And specifically, we're going to look further in the book of Ruth, the story of Boaz. So if you have a Bible, turn to Leviticus 19, chapter 19, verse 9 and onward. If you don't have a Bible, there's a Bible in front of you. If you came to the 9 and for whatever reason you're watching the 10 of 50, I forgot to invite you so that you could take the Bible. So if you want to come back and grab the Bible, you can totally do that. Sorry. But yeah, if you don't have a Bible, take this Bible. If you need a better Bible, I've got like 25 back there that I could just give away. Just ask. So we are going to be in Leviticus 19. Did I say the wrong thing? Oh, we're also going to be in Ruth. Sorry. But yeah, we're going to be Leviticus 19:9. It says, when you reap the harvest of your land, you are not to reap the very edge of your field, or gather the gleanings of your harvest. You must not strip your vineyard bare or gather its fallen grapes. Leave them for the poor and the foreign resident. What does it say in the NIV after that? Okay, does it say, I am the Lord your God? If you look, when God is giving commandments, look down. If you look at verse 12, it says the same thing. Verse 14, it says the same thing. So he's giving them this command for their fields, for their livelihood, right? They're an agrarian society, largely. There's other people in other professions, but largely. He's giving them a command, and he's couching it in this phrase. And it says, what does it say in the NIV? I am the Lord your God. It says, I am Yahweh your God. I am the Lord your God. So what he's doing, so when we read that, our first inclination is to be like, well, God just went like this. I am the Lord. Do this because I'm God. Do it. Just do it. But that's not what he's saying. That phrase is the same type of phrase when you point back when God came to save Israel from enslavement in Egypt. He said, I will be your God, and you will be my people. So when he says, hey, leave the extra stuff on the outside of your field, he's saying it, he's couching it in, I am the Lord your God. You are my people. I sustain you. So if we go to Deuteronomy 24, 19 through 22. It says, when you reap the harvest in your field, and you forget a sheaf in the field, do not go back to get it. It is to be left for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. When you knock down the fruit from your olive tree, you must not go over the branches again. What remains will be for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow. When you gather grapes of your vineyard, you must not glean what is left. What remains will be for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. Therefore, because of this, I am commanding you to do this. By the way, I'm not reading from the NIV, and I did it intentionally so because the NIV keeps using the word glean. And if we trying to understand the concept of what gleaning is, and it just tells us, hey, glean. When you glean, don't glean. Do it. Okay, that's what we're trying to figure out. It's like when you look at the dictionary and you're like, well, what's this word mean? And then you see the word, and it just has the word and the definition, and you're like, great. If I only knew what the word meant, then I would know what the word means now. So I'm reading it in this context for that reason. So it says, I love this. So it says, 3 times it says, should be left for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow. It's almost like a heartbeat. The thump. The thump. The thump. I didn't catch that until now. This is great. Teaching 3 is great. You see things all over the place. But we begin to see the heart of God, right? The thump for the fatherless, the thump for the widow, the thump for the foreigner. You are my people, the thump. This is how we beat the thump. The thump. That's awesome. Anyway, but he couches it in this reality. Again, it says, because you were slaves in Egypt, therefore I'm commanding you to do this. So what is he doing? Well, certainly he's saying, you were slaves. What does that mean? It means that they're no longer slaves, right? So remember that I'm the God who brought you out of slavery. But it also is a call to remember their poverty. Remember that you were slaves. Remember what it's like to feel like no one is looking out for you. That those over you want to crush you. That they're scared of you. That they're afraid of you. Remember what it's like to be oppressed. Remember what that is. And because of that, don't lose that part of your identity. Don't lose that part of who you are. But because of that, because of your recognition of your poverty apart from me, because of that, look at the widow, look at the fatherless, look at the foreigner, and give. So, we're going to look at Ruth 2. So, how many of you, this has been interesting, how many of you have heard the story of Ruth in the context of like a love story? Okay, 3 or 4. I'm so glad most of you aren't tainted. It's awesome. It certainly is a love story, right? There's some loving that goes on in, well, okay. There is some love that happens in this story, that is true. But when we look at it in context of thinking of it as a love story, we look at the actions of the main character in this story, who's going to be, one of the main characters, who's going to be Boaz. And we see this man who's doing these things for this woman and go, oh yeah, that's like typical dating stuff. You're like, yeah, I'm perfect. I'll buy everything for you. Oh, it's no problem. Oh, it's fine that you yell at me. It totally doesn't bother me at all. Oh, it's fine that you have a short temper. I totally understand. And then, you get married and it's like, what are you doing? Stop. And we're sanctified through it, right? We're made better because of it. We see our weaknesses in that relationship. But we tend to look at it and go, oh, look at all the nice things he does. I should look for a guy who does all these nice things for me. Newsflash, any guy who's dating you ought to be doing all these nice things. Regardless of Jesus, it doesn't matter. Like, he wants to have a relationship with you. So he's like, hey, stuff, time, yeah, whatever you want. Why? Because he would like to spend more time with you. But that's not what's going on here. So for some context, the story, we're basically going to be looking at Ruth, Naomi, and Boaz. So the story of Ruth, and Naomi is that a long time ago, their husbands, so their family, Naomi is the mother-in-law of Ruth. Ruth's husband, Naomi's son, died. Ruth had a sister-in-law, Orpah. Her husband, also Naomi's son, died. On top of that, Naomi's husband died. So they all died after they left Bethlehem and moved to Moab. So the land of Moab was a place that was in direct conflict with Israel. They weren't friends. So the reason they left Bethlehem is because they couldn't make a living. They left Bethlehem as foreigners. But with the husbands there to work out how to provide and how to do all that stuff, the families left and they were fine. But now that's gone. That comfort, that safety net is gone. All three women have lost in this society their main source of protection, their main source of income, their main source of livelihood. And now that here they are. So what Naomi does is she goes to Ruth and she goes to Orpah and she says, hey, this is not great. You should just go back to your people. You should just go back to where you came from, go back to worshiping your gods, and then remarry. It's not good for you to be like this. It's not good for you to live like this. And Ruth Naomi changes her name to Mara, which is basically bitterness. So in her bitterness, she's just like, just go and leave me. And Orpah says, okay. And Orpah leaves. Peace. Bye, Orpah. But Ruth says, no, I'm going to stay with you. And your people will become my people. And your God will become my God. So Ruth and Naomi are stuck being in this land of Moab, and they have no one to provide for them. So they find themselves in a position where they're going to have to glean to survive. So I'm going to draw a field. How many of us are actually farmers? Yes. 2? 1.5. Is that a half hand? Matt, the only thing you know how to farm is jokes. Okay, so most of us aren't farmers, and none of us are farmers 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago-ish, right? Unless are you a time traveler? No, okay. Do we have any time-traveling farmers? Okay, great. See me afterwards, if so, I've got a great business idea. This is the field. Do we have any artists? Oh, good. All of you are as bad at drawing as I am. This is a field, right? This is a person.
Thank you.
That is a person, right? There we go. That's the echelons, the upper skills that I have in art. Okay. So here's the field. And the idea, so God commanded that the faithful Israelites would leave their field and that they would leave this outer edge, right, for gleaning. Now, why the outer edge? Well, there's two main reasons why. Along these fields, so there would be a field here, there would be a field here, down here, up here, over here. There'd be fields everywhere. But along those fields would be the main ways that people navigated around those things. So when he says to leave the outside, well, on the outside, you can just go as you're going about your way. You can go in and grab something. You're just walking along the way. And if you read the New Testament, Jesus and his disciples get in trouble because they're walking along some fields on Sabbath day. And they go and they pick some wheat. And people lose their minds. But what they're doing is they're taking advantage of this law that God had prescribed. The people would be able to walk along the trails and glean. But also for their protection, right? Because if you are a widow, if you are fatherless, if you are a foreigner, you're in a vulnerable position. You're not protected. You're not safe. So on these outsides, you're along the road. It's less likely that anyone is going to do anything where there are witnesses, right? So also, yes, glean from here as you go about your way, as you're traveling or whatever, but also you're protected. You've got the people who are working the fields looking, and you've got the people who are walking along the fields looking. It's like a built-in protection mechanism. Now, the stuff on the outside, God commands that the stuff on the outside, that we would give that they would leave that for those people. But, I mean, really, this stuff is going to be subject to the weather. Somebody's cart's going to go off the road. Somebody's mule's going to be stuck in here. There's a sheep wandering into the field and chucking away at it. So really, it's almost a wash anyway, because I wasn't really going to make any money off of it anyway. You know, you can see some crude businessman like, all right, I guess I'll be obedient. So in that context, we're going to look at the story of Boaz and Ruth. And I wasn't super clear. Ruth and Naomi are in the outskirts of Bethlehem, but they are Moabites living in Bethlehem. So they're enemies living on enemy territory while they're doing this. So now Naomi had a relative on her husband's side named Boaz. He was a prominent man of noble character from Elimelech's family. So right here, this is just any of those like, oh, he's doing it because he loves her or whatever, just gets shot down. This is who he is. The story is setting up to tell us that Boaz was the kind of man who just lived this way. Verse 2. Ruth, the Moabitess, and Naomi, will you let me go into the fields, asked Naomi, will you let me go into the fields and gather fallen grain behind someone who allows me to? If you flip over your notes, you'll see the same list that's on the front almost goes parallel with what we're going to see in the book of Ruth. So Naomi answered her, go ahead, my daughter. So Ruth left and entered the field to gather grain behind the harvesters. She happened to be in the portion of land belonging to Boaz, who was from Elimelech's family. Okay, so for broader context, the story of Ruth is an incredible story, but you never see God as a main character in this story. But you do see things like happened upon, or this thing just happened this way, or you see how God is providentially meeting Ruth's needs. So when it says that she happened to be there, but there's also this element where there has to be someone who allows me to. So Ruth is a Moabite. She is a foreigner to this society, and she's going up and trying to find someone who will let her stay and glean, not just pass by and pick things up, but to stay there. She's looking essentially for a place where she can mooch, frankly. So she's looking for someone, and it's not just going to be anyone, not just that. She's a Moabite. She's one of them. She's one of those people. Her family left Bethlehem to go. They left Bethlehem to go to a place because they didn't trust that God was going to meet their needs. So they left Bethlehem. They married Moabite women. Now these Moabite women that these guys had married are here in Jerusalem, or here in Bethlehem, and they're asking us for money. This is like the worst thing that you could possibly do. So she's doing that. But she happens to find Boaz's people. And they say, sure, it's implied. So Ruth left and entered the field to gather grain behind the harvesters. She happened to be in the portion of the land belonging to Boaz, who was from Elimelech's family. Later, when Boaz arrived from Bethlehem, so these fields are on the outskirts of Bethlehem, he said to the harvesters, the Lord be with you. And they said, the Lord bless you. So right away, remember the story says that Boaz is this man of noble character. He's the kind of guy who walks up to his people and he says, bless you guys. And they don't go, yeah, there he is, acting like he cares about us again. Or like, yeah. And they don't reply with, yeah. Right? He's the kind of guy who looks them in the eye and says, bless you. May the Lord bless you. And he's the kind of guy who means it. He's the kind of guy who desires that God would bless his people. And they recognize that. And they say, Lord bless you. So he's not just a guy. Right? He doesn't owe anything to the people who are working his field. He owes them a paycheck, maybe a place to stay, depending on their contract or whatever. He doesn't owe them to care. but he cares. And they recognize that and care about him. To him, the people working his field are people made in the image of God, who deserve his attention, who deserve his time, right? He could have stayed in Bethlehem, let his people done their work, and then come back, bring me all the proceeds, whatever, hands off. But he doesn't do that. He recognizes that this field is from God, and these people are from God. So Boaz asked his servant who is in charge of the harvesters, "Whose young woman is this?" So Boaz comes from Bethlehem, and he greets his people in such a way that they reciprocate his greeting. They're close. They know each other. But not only does he know his people, he knows the people who are picking in his field. The fatherless, the widow, the enemy Moabite foreign woman in his field, and everyone else who plucks from his field. He knows them. He makes it a point to not let them just glean, this concept of taking from the outside, glean from the outside, but he wants to know them. So he asks, "Who is this?" And the servant answered, "She is the young Moabite woman who returned with Naomi from the land of Moab." She asked, "Will you let me gather fallen grain among the bundles behind the harvesters?" She came and has remained from early morning until now, except that she rested a little in the shelter. Notice what the servant tells him. He doesn't just say, "Oh, she's some Moabite woman." What does that mean? That means his servant had eyes to see her, ears to hear her, a heart that could empathize, and allowed her. He listened to the story. He listened to the story well enough to tell someone else when they came and asked, "Who is that?" Well, I can tell you exactly who that is. I can tell you her story. We read on, verse 8. Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Listen, my daughter." Okay, pause. See, this is why we read our Bibles wrong. So he's talking to his servant. His servant is the head servant. He's probably out here talking, having a discussion. Here's Ruth somewhere down here on the outskirts, over on the outskirts. So he's having this discussion, and then he goes and he finds her. He goes, it's not enough for me to know about you and to know your story. I have to know you. I want to know you. He doesn't know her anything. She's literally mooching off of him. That's what she's doing. But he, recognizing that she is a child of God, recognizing the situation that she's in, listening to where she's coming from, he pursues her. So he goes to Ruth, this Moabite foreigner. "Listen, my daughter." What? She's a Moabite. She's an enemy. Yeah, she married in, but they're dead. "Listen, my daughter, don't go and gather grain in another field, and don't leave this one, but stay here close to my female servants. See which field they are harvesting, and follow them. Haven't I ordered the young men not to touch you? When you are thirsty, go and drink from the jars the young men have filled." Recognizing the situation that she's in, he doesn't just pray and hope that things go well for her. He says, "Oh my goodness, this is not a great place to be in. Come here. See, these are my female servants. You stay with them. Whatever field they go to, you go with them. You stay with them. Come here, I'm going to protect you." So he listens to her story, and he has compassion on her, and he invites her so that she wouldn't have to be scared and wonder, where do I go? Maybe tomorrow I'll go to a field and it'll be the wrong one, and I could die, or I could be sent out, or who knows what could happen. All these things are running to her mind. If you've never gone day to day without wondering what you're going to eat, you don't understand this. You don't. She didn't know if she was going to have something to eat tomorrow. Not because the reason we don't know, because we don't know if we're going to live, we don't know if we're going to have our jobs, we don't know. She didn't know because she didn't have any right to anything. She was literally dependent for her needs to be met by people who were kind. That's it. So imagine what she's feeling. But then he says something in the end there. When you are thirsty, go and drink from the jars the young men have filled. Does anyone know why he says that? If you were listening. Because his servant said, she hasn't stopped working except for one little break. Well, why wouldn't she stop working? Why wouldn't she stop working? Because she didn't know if she'd be allowed into the field again. Maybe she'd get a different servant, and he'd say no. So she worked and she worked and she worked, and she took a little break. And he's saying, no, that's not the relationship we have anymore. Come in, you take your break, you make sure that you get water, you make sure that your needs are met, and my men will make sure that you have water. So we go on. She bowed her face to the ground and said to him, why are you so kind to notice me, although I'm a foreigner? She knew. He didn't know me anything. Why? Why are you so kind? And Boaz answered her, everything you have done for your mother-in-law since your husband's death has been fully reported to me. How you left your father and mother and the land of your birth, and how you came to a people you didn't previously know. She did all this for the sake of Naomi. May the Lord reward you for what you have done, and may you receive a full reward from the Lord, God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge. Wait a minute. Didn't she go to Boaz's field? Didn't she go to Boaz for refuge? Aren't her needs being met by Boaz? No. Boaz is saying, you came to me, but this isn't my field. You came to me, but these aren't my servants. You came to me, but this isn't my life. This is his field. These are his servants. This is his life he's giving me. When you came to me, you came into the protection of God. Because God provides everything. Because God is giving everything. Because God has given me this field. Because God has given me this life. Because God is sustaining me. When you chose to stay with Naomi and to identify yourself with God, I'm not being kind to you. I'm expressing the love of God to you because God gives me everything. I am every bit in need as you are. If I don't wake up in the morning, it's because he decided I wouldn't. If I don't make it from Bethlehem to the field, it's because he decides I wouldn't. If I don't make enough money from this field, it's because he decides I wouldn't. But I do. And because I do, I'm able to give. And she says, my Lord, you have been so kind to me, for you have comforted and encouraged your slave. Although I am not like one of your female servants. She said, you're treating me as you would one of your servants. She no doubt saw the way that he was interacting with his servants. She said, but I'm a foreigner. Truly, you are so gracious. You are so kind. And then at mealtime, Boaz told her, come over here and have some bread and dip it in the vinegar sauce. So she sat beside the harvesters, and he offered her roasted grain. She ate and was satisfied and had some left over. Then it goes on to tell about, it says she was able to pull some of the stalks from bundles, meaning she was able to go in here, to go into the heart of it, and take some of the choicest stuff, and they were not allowed to hassle her. And she beat out, and she had 26 quarts of barley. She picked up the grain and went to town where her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. Then she brought out what she had left over from her meal and gave it to her. Pause. Ruth didn't have anything, was given a meal, was satisfied, but had leftovers. And what did she do with those leftovers? Recognizing the kindness that was shown to her to meet her need, she goes and she takes the extra. She could have ate it and been plump and happy, but she thought of Naomi. So when we look at this principle of gleaning and we look at what Boaz is doing, the commandment was that we would leave some for gleaning, that we would leave the outside edges, that we would have margin. And the question is, do you? Do you have margin? Because when you recognize that God is giving you everything, it's not yours. It's not yours. So the stuff that we have isn't ours. The money that we make is because He has given us everything we need to do that. The time that we have, we can't even know that we're going to breathe the next breath. Stop. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And I told the other service this, so it would be wrong if I didn't tell you guys. My therapist once recommended, I used to see a therapist, he said 5 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Perfect breathing. So 5 seconds in, 6 seconds out. Did you breathe? Or did God give you breath? Did you wake up this morning? Or did God wake you up this morning? Did you hold the world in motion while you slept? Or did God hold it all together? So Boaz sees this woman out here. He has margins. He has space. He has time for her. He has the financial stability for her. He's built in to his life this idea of giving. Why? Because God gives everything. Because God gives everything. You and I, when we were dead in sin, when we were enemies of God, when we were Moabites in Israel, God sent His Son in love. He sent His Son to live the life that you and I should have lived, to die the death that you and I should have died, so that He could invite us where? Into the heart of the Father. So He says, leave some for gleaning. And Boaz does that. But He also does more. He invites her in to the field. He invites her in to the heart of the field. And in doing so, invites her in to the heart of the Father. Well, how is He able to do that? Because He didn't look at his stuff as his. He looked at his stuff as if they were gifts from God. He looked at his time, not as if it was his, as if he could even make a clock go from 1 minute to the next, or sustain himself in the process, but he looked at it as if it was God's, graciously given to him, day by day, moment by moment, second by second, every truth that he knew, every wisdom that he had benefited from, every life experience that he had been blessed by, to be the man who had servants, who had field. He recognized that God was giving him this gift. So God gives us gifts. He gives us time. He gives us financial well-being. He gives us everything that we have. But He knows. He doesn't ask us to give to see whether or not we're obedient. God gives because it's who He is. God gives because to give is to be like God. God gives because He loves. And when He says, here, now you leave some for gleaning, what He's saying is, come on, look at this. When you give, look at what you can do. Look at what you can do for this foreigner. Look at what you can do for this low-down person. Look, remember what I did when you were in Egypt? When you were nobody, when the Egyptians thought you were enslaved and nothing to worry about. Remember when you were nothing, and look what I did. Now look, now you're in this place where you have a field. Now you're in this place where you're no longer enslaved. Now you're in this place. Come, give. Look how awesome it is. And He's inviting us to have eyes to see those around us. But not just to see them, but to see them for who they are. And to hear and to hear their story, not just hear it with words going, but to listen to it, to take it in. And then he's inviting us to give of our time, to give of our life, to give of things. And he's not asking us to give everything, though by asking us to give anything, in order to give anything, you have to be willing to give everything. Because if you give, you have to admit, this isn't mine. And some of us give, and we think that it's ours, and we feel smug about it. That's not the joy of giving. The joy of giving is going, God, you've given me all of this. You've given me everything. You've given me everything. And then you say, but I'm going to give you more, and then you can give it away. I'm going over. Man, I'm not judging that guy ever again. Like, man, I got out of here late. Yeah, this is hard. You really do get preaching. Okay. So what do we take out of this? I'm going to share some of my story. So there are two reasons you might not be able to give that I can think of. It might be whatever, false dichotomy. But the two reasons I can think is because you think that your stuff, your money, your wealth, your time is yours. So you have the car that you, listen to me, want. Not necessarily bad. I'm not saying that's bad, but you have the car that you want. You also have the house that you want. Not the house that you need, the house that you want. You also have the shoes that you need, the shoes that you want, the food that you want, the game systems or whatever that you want. You have all these things that you want. Now, God's given you enough to meet your need. So you don't have any margins in your budget because it's all spent. It's all maxed out. It's all floating somewhere in credit card purgatory. Yeah. So it's all floating in credit card purgatory. So the money you get is the money that you give, and you're stuck. Okay? And then, in order to pay off all those credit cards, what do you got to do now? Well, you got to get a second job. So what do you not have now? Time. And then, while you're doing that, you're working too much, so you're not sleeping enough. So you're cranky, you're irritable, your brain is not in the right space. You get chunky, like me, because you're working too much. You get chunky, like me, and then you're irritable, chunky, you got no time, and you've got no extra, and you have no peace. I like that. But God says, no, this is the way that we live. We live in light of, I have the cattle on 1,000 hills. I can meet your needs. How are you living outside of your needs? The other way that you could be poor is you are like Ruth. In this story, you're not going, yeah, I've got all this extra. You're going, I don't have anything. And that's okay. Because God says, come in. Even though you have nothing of value, come in. Come be with my people. Just like Boaz, who says, no. You're not just going to stay out here. You're going to come in with my people. I'm going to treat you like one of my people. And God does that with us. Like I said, when we were dead in sin, Christ died for us to reconcile us, to draw us into the Father heart of God. So, I'll end on a personal story. Band can get in place. I'm already over 3 minutes, so you guys are extra gracious. Thank you. Thank you for giving me your time. Oh, man. Okay. So, my wife and I have been praying about doing adoption. And I'm the budget guy, so adoption means another mouth to feed. Adoption means another body to clothe. And to some extent, yes, you're given those things. Whatever. But to me, I'm going, okay, well, let's look at the budget. And I'm going, well, we can't do it. Why? Because I maxed out my budget. I had credit cards in purgatory. But I looked at it, and I'm like, I feel like God is saying we really need to do this. So God lined some things up and answered a prayer for me in a crazy way. Maybe talk to me sometime and I'll tell you that story. But he showed me in an undeniable way that that's what he wanted me to do. So I'm like, okay, well then this budget's got to be reworked. So I went and I'm like, grocery money, snip, 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 snip. Okay, beans and rice and chicken and vegetables. That's fine. What are we having today? Beans and rice and chicken and vegetables. If you come to my house and you have a meal with us, there's a strong chance that chicken's there and rice is there and beans there. I'm not really kidding. Like this is what we're doing. But then we're also looking at like our fun money, right? Like my wife and I have this system where we have a few bucks. It used to be 15 $15 a month that we could just spend frivolously without asking, like, why'd you spend that money? Just, here's some grace, go do whatever you want with it. Usually what we'd end up doing with it is buying each other lunch. Like, we would spend our date fund, and then it'd be like, oh man, I really want Chinese, but I spent my money. Okay, well, I'll buy you Chinese. So, really our date fund just got bigger. But we looked at that and we went, let's just cut this back. So we're down to $10. So like I could buy you a coffee maybe if you want to meet for coffee. That's about all I can do. So we cut that back. And then we're like, okay, well, we have date money. We got to invest in our marriage, right? But what better way to invest in our marriage than pouring our lives out together in mission for Christ, recognizing that he is giving us this gift and to have a mission together. I hear of older couples who are like, we just don't have anything in common. We're going to adopt kids. We don't have anything in common. We got a mission to do. We got stuff to do. But what happened? Well, we went from going, this house that I have is mine. This car that I have is mine. This stuff, like, I'm a gaming nerd, so I've got a PC that's worth like $1,300. Don't rob me, because I'm going to sell it. Because I'm thinking, I don't need this. My wife is like, no, but like you get enjoyment out of it, so like you should keep it, and she's really sweet. But it's going as soon as we get through these classes for adoption. But anyway, so I'm looking at all this stuff and I went, what? I don't need this. Like God gave me this money and I bought this thing that's kind of fun. And rest is totally helpful. And I'm not saying that stuff is bad, but God's asked me to do something. He's invited me, what? To share in the Father heart of God. So I'm just looking at everything around me like, bye, see ya, bye, all right. And I'm like, oh, here's our budget. Snip, 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 snip. Why? Because it's not about me. It's about my Father, who, while I was so far out, no one saw me, he saw me. And he came up to me, and he heard my story, and he loved me, and he invited me in, and then he invited me in deeper, and he's inviting me in deeper and deeper. Everything that I have is his. So I'm going to pray, stop preaching, so you guys can go eat. Father God, I thank you so much that you sought us while we were your enemies. I thank you that you have loved us in such ways to draw us in, and that you invite us. How crazy is this? We were your enemies, and now you invite us. You give us stuff and say, look, join me in this joy. Look how wonderful it is to give. Your word says that Christ, for the joy set before him, Christ endured the cross. What a joy it is to give, even if it costs you everything, for the sake of seeing lives transformed. The fatherless with a father, the widow and the orphan protected. Father, may you give us eyes to see, ears to hear, hearts to empathize. May we loosen the grip of things. May we embrace you, and may we embrace those around us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Everyone needs compassion, love that's never fails.
May we, from this moment forward, from this week on, look at the way that God has lavishly blessed us and given us everything that we need for life and godliness. And may we surrender our ownership of ourselves, from our time to our wealth to everything, and lay it down at the feet of Jesus, who calls us into a deeper joy than having stuff and having time for ourselves, who calls us into the deeper joy of seeing lives transformed, hearts renewed, the downtrodden with needs met. What a greater joy than to share in the joy that God has in loving us by loving those around us. Be blessed, guys. See you.